I had spent my entire life teaching children how to read, how to think, how to believe in themselves. And when I finally retired after 35 years in the classroom, I thought I'd earned a little peace. Quiet mornings, coffee on the porch, maybe a trip I'd been postponing for decades. But peace didn't last long. The day after my retirement party, my daughter-in-law Vanessa called me. Her tone wasn't kind, and her words burned more than she could imagine. "Grace, you don't do anything anymore. You can watch the kids while I travel." I remember sitting there, staring at the phone, realizing that to her, I wasn't a person anymore, just free childcare. I smiled, hung up, and poured myself another cup of coffee. Because that was the moment I decided something. If Vanessa thought I was just a retired grandma with nothing to do, she was about to learn the hardest lesson of her life, and when she came back from her trip, she couldn't believe what was waiting for her. Before we continue, tell me where you're listening from. Don't forget to add your country's flag and the city you're in. I read every comment, and it truly warms my heart to see how far our stories travel. My name is Grace Miller. 35 years teaching at Lincoln Elementary School in Austin had prepared me to deal with difficult children, complicated parents, and impossible situations. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared me for Vanessa. That afternoon, I was sitting in my living room enjoying my second day of retirement. Do you know what it's like to work since you're 22 and finally at 67 have time for yourself? I had waited for this moment my whole life. My coffee table was covered with travel brochures: Santa Fe, Savannah, Portland, places I'd always dreamed of visiting but never could, because first there was raising Robert alone after his father died in that bus accident. And then there were years of sacrifice to give him an education. The phone rang at 4 in the afternoon. I saw Vanessa's name on the screen and hesitated to answer. Whenever she called, it was to ask for something. "Grace?" she began without even greeting me. She never called me mother-in-law, much less mom. "I have an incredible opportunity in Miami. It's a multi-level marketing conference that's going to change our lives." Multi-level marketing. Another, one of her pyramid schemes where she always lost money. "The kids can't miss 2 weeks of school," she continued, "so I'll leave them with you." "Excuse me?" My voice came out as a whisper. "Oh, don't play deaf. I told you I'm leaving Dylan, Sophie, and Mason with you. After all, you don't do anything anymore. You can watch them while I travel. It's perfect. Now that you're not working, you have all the time in the world. I don't do anything anymore." I felt my blood boil. This woman, who had never worked an honest day in her life, who lived off my son like a parasite, was telling me I didn't do anything. "Vanessa, I have plans." Plans? She laughed with that shrill laugh I so detested. What plans can a retired old lady have? Knitting? Watching soap operas? "Please, Grace, don't be ridiculous. I'm dropping them off tomorrow at 7 a.m., and don't give them junk food like last time. The last time I saw my grandchildren was 6 months ago at Christmas, and only for 2 hours. Because according to her, they had to go to their other grandparents' house, the important ones. The ones with money? I'm not going to watch them for you, Vanessa." "What do you mean, no? You're their grandmother. It's your obligation." "Besides, Robert agrees." Lie. My son didn't even know about this, I was sure. He worked 14 hours a day at the manufacturing plant to support this woman's whims. "If you want to see your grandchildren ever again, you better cooperate," she threatened. "Because I decide whether they have a grandmother or not." And that's when something in me broke. Or rather, something in me awakened. If they knew me, they'd know that Teacher Grace never stayed quiet in the face of injustice. And this woman had just declared war on me. "All right, Vanessa," I said with the sweetest voice I could fake. "Bring them tomorrow. That's what I like to hear. And don't spoil them. You know they're difficult children, but that's because you never knew how to raise Robert properly. If he'd had a decent mother..." I hung up before she finished the sentence. I sat there staring at the framed retirement certificate on the wall. 35 years shaping generations, and my own daughter-in-law treated me like free help. But if there was one thing I'd learned in all these years, it's that the best lessons aren't taught with words. I picked up my cell phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in years. Carol? Yes, it's Grace. I need your help. Do you remember what you told me about the hidden recorders you used in your divorce? Uh-huh. Perfect. And one more thing. Your sister still works for Child Protective Services? Excellent. I hung up and poured myself some chamomile tea. Tomorrow, the real education would begin. But it wouldn't be for the children. Vanessa was about to learn the most important lesson of her life. Never, ever underestimate a retired teacher with free time and a thirst for justice. That night I couldn't sleep. As I tossed and turned in bed, memories from 35 years hit me like waves against rocks. How did we get to this point? How did I allow my own family to treat me like old furniture that's only useful when they need it? It all started when Robert was barely 3 years old. His father, my Michael, left one rainy October morning for Houston. The bus crashed on the curves near Hope Valley. Ironic name, right? 23 dead. Michael was passenger number 24, but he survived 3 days in the hospital. 3 days during which I spent our 5 years of savings trying to save him. Take care of our son, were his last words. Make him a good man. And boy, did I try. I was left with $800 in the bank account, a 3-year-old child, and a teaching degree. The first years were hell I wouldn't wish on anyone. I worked double shifts, mornings at the public school, afternoons giving private tutoring. Robert ate before I did. If there was money for shoes, they were for him. If there was enough left for a toy on his birthday, I pretended I wasn't hungry that night. My mother, may she rest in peace, used to tell me, Grace, you're going to kill yourself working like this. Find yourself another husband, someone to provide for you both. But I would look at my Robert with those little brown eyes just like his father's, and I knew no stepfather would love him like I could. No strange man would give him the love I could give him, so I kept going alone. The sacrifices were endless. I remember one Christmas when Robert was 8 years old. I had saved for 6 months to buy him the bicycle he wanted so much. On the night of the 24th, while he slept, I realized I didn't have money for Christmas dinner. I sold my only ring that wasn't my wedding ring, a family heirloom from my grandmother, for $300 to be able to make the pot roast and apple pie. Robert never knew. To him, his mother was invincible. His mother could do anything, and that's how it had to be. When he reached high school, expenses multiplied. Books, uniforms, transportation, supplies. I continued with my double shift, but now I also sold baked goods on Sundays at the church steps. My hands, look at these wrinkled, stained hands with swollen joints from kneading dough at 4 a.m. But it was all worth it when Robert entered college. Industrial engineering at UT Austin. Pride overflowed in me. My son, the son of Widow Miller, the one who grew up without a father, was going to be an engineer. It was in his 3rd year when Vanessa appeared. Mom, I want you to meet someone special, he told me one Sunday after church. There she was in her pastel pink dress, her perfect smile, her black hair falling in waves over her shoulders. She looked like a porcelain doll. Oh, Mrs. Grace. She hugged me with a warmth that completely disarmed me. Robert has told me so much about you. I admire you so much. Raising a son alone like this, you're my hero. How could I not fall into her trap? I, who had spent 20 years without a sincere hug that wasn't from my son, suddenly had this pretty girl calling me her hero. The first years were good. I won't lie. Vanessa would come to the house, help me cook, tell me about her humble family from New Mexico. Her father was a construction worker. Her mother sold tamales. That's why I understand you so much. Mrs. Grace, you and I know what it's like to struggle. Lies. It was all lies. But I was so happy to see Robert in love that I didn't want to see the signs. They got married when Robert graduated. I paid for half the wedding with my retirement savings. It's an investment in my son's happiness, I justified to myself. Vanessa cried with emotion, or so I thought. Now I know she was crying because she expected a more luxurious wedding. The change was gradual, like poison administered in small doses. First came the helpful comments. Oh, Mother-in-law. What a shame Robert didn't have a father figure. You can see it in his lack of ambition. If you had saved better, Robert would have studied at a private university. Don't be offended, but your pancakes are too plain. I make them with more ingredients, more gourmet. Each comment was a small stab, but I endured them. For Robert, always for Robert. When Dylan was born, my first grandson, I thought things would improve. I ran to the hospital with the little blanket I had knitted for 9 months. Vanessa looked at it and set it aside. Thanks, but we already have everything from Target. This, well, we can donate it. Target. While I continued buying my clothes at thrift stores to be able to save for my son's future, she shopped at Target with Robert's salary. Then came Sophie and Mason. With each grandchild, I grew more distant. Vanessa had 1,000 excuses. The children needed routine. I would spoil them. My house wasn't safe for children. My parenting ideas were outdated. It's just that you don't understand, mother-in-law, she told me once. Today's children need early stimulation, English classes, swimming, robotics. Not just pancakes and beans like Robert grew up on. Pancakes and beans. My son grew up with love, with values, with the certainty that he was loved. But Vanessa had started her campaign to distance me, and Robert was too tired from work to notice. The hardest blow came 2 years ago. It was Sophie's 5th birthday. I had saved for 3 months to buy her the dollhouse I'd seen at the mall. I arrived at their house with the gift wrapped and wearing my best dress. The party was in the backyard. There was a bounce house, clowns, even a princess show, and I wasn't on the guest list. Oh, mother-in-law, how embarrassing, Vanessa said at the door without letting me pass. It's just a party for school friends and their parents. You understand. It's different people. We don't want you to feel uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. The birthday girl's grandmother was going to make the different people uncomfortable. I saw Robert in the background playing with the children. He didn't look up. He knew I was there and did nothing. I left with my dollhouse and cried all the way home. That night I donated it to the orphanage. At least there it would be appreciated. And now, after all this, after years of humiliation and contempt, Vanessa wanted me to be her free babysitter, as if all the pain she caused me could be erased with a snap of her fingers when she needed me. But what Vanessa didn't know was that Teacher Grace had learned much more than math and reading in 35 years. I had learned child psychology, studied dysfunctional families, seen hundreds of cases of narcissistic mothers who use their children as weapons. And above all, I had learned to wait for the perfect moment to act. I looked at the clock, 3 a.m. In 4 hours, Vanessa would knock on my door with 3 children who barely knew me. 3 children who had been trained to see me as the poor grandmother, the boring grandmother, the grandmother who wasn't worth their time. I smiled in the darkness. If there was one thing I knew how to do after so many years, it was transform children. And these 3 were about to discover who their grandmother Grace really was. At exactly 7 in the morning, the doorbell rang. Not 7:05 or 7:10. Vanessa was always punctual. When it suited her, I opened the door and there were 3 children with grumpy faces and suitcases bigger than they were. Don't have time for small talk. Vanessa didn't even cross the threshold. Dylan has a dust allergy. Sophie won't eat anything with green vegetables, and Mason needs his iPad to fall asleep. Their medications are in the blue suitcase. I'll be back in 2 weeks. And Robert isn't coming to say goodbye to his children? Robert is working, as always. Someone has to support this family. She looked me up and down. Not everyone has the luxury of retiring with a government pension. My pension, $4,500 monthly after 35 years of service. Vanessa spent more than that on her nails and eyelash extensions. The children entered dragging their feet. Dylan, 12 years old with his phone glued to his face. Sophie, 10, with a permanent grimace of disgust. Mason, 7, already looking for where the TV was. Behave with your grandmother, Vanessa said without any conviction. Then she approached me and whispered, and don't get any ideas about filling their heads with nonsense. Remember that I decide whether they see you again or not. She left without saying goodbye to her children. No kiss, no hug, just the sound of her heels walking away and the engine of her late-model SUV. I stood there with 3 children who looked at me like I was the enemy. And then I remembered all the moments when Vanessa had built this wall between us. Like that time 3 years ago when I wanted to give Robert $5,000 for a down payment on a used car. Vanessa intercepted the money. "Oh, mother-in-law, we better use it for the children's tuition. Education comes first, don't you think?" I never saw a receipt for those tuition payments. A month later, Vanessa appeared with a Louis Vuitton bag. "A friend gave it to me," she said when I asked. "A friend, of course. Or when my sister Rose died and left me $50,000 in inheritance," I told Robert excitedly, thinking about finally fixing my roof that leaked every storm season. Vanessa found out. "Mother-in-law, Robert and I are in a difficult situation. The company where I work went bankrupt, another one of her failed multi-level marketing schemes. And we urgently need that money. We'll pay you back with interest." Interest. 2 years have passed and I haven't seen a penny. My roof still leaks, and now I have to put buckets out every time it rains. But Vanessa's trip to Los Angeles with her friends last year, that could be paid for just fine. "Grandma, where's the Wi-Fi?" Dylan pulled me from my thoughts. "I need the Wi-Fi, now." "The router is broken," I lied. "I had disconnected it on purpose." "What? That can't be." Mom, he started screaming like he was being tortured. "Your mom already left, Dylan, and screaming isn't going to bring the internet back. You're the worst grandmother in the world. That's why nobody likes you." There was Vanessa's poison coming out of my grandson's mouth. It didn't hurt me. I was already prepared. "I'm hungry," Sophie interrupted. "But I'm not going to eat anything you cook. Mom says you cook horribly, and that's why Dad is so skinny." "And I want to watch YouTube," Mason added. "At home I watch YouTube all day." I looked at all 3 of them. Perfect products of neglect disguised as modern parenting. Children who knew no limits, who understood nothing about respect, who had been programmed to despise me. But then I remembered the exact moment when Vanessa crossed the definitive line. It was last Christmas. I had prepared my specialty, pot roast with my mother's recipe, green bean casserole, apple pie with cinnamon. I had cooked for 2 days. I arrived at their house with the dishes still warm. The children ran to the kitchen, attracted by the smell. "Don't touch that," Vanessa shouted. "We don't know what conditions your grandmother prepared it in. Let's order pizza instead." Pizza on Christmas Eve. I watched her throw my food in the trash without even tasting it. The children looked at me with pity, as if I were a beggar who had brought leftovers. "It's just that Grandma's food is too greasy," Vanessa explained to them. "And her kitchen has cockroaches." Lies. My kitchen is cleaner than an operating room. But Robert was there watching it all and only said, "Vanessa knows what's best for the children." That night I decided my son was lost. But my grandchildren might still have salvation. "Grandma, do something." "We're bored." Dylan threw a cushion on the floor. "You know what?" I told them calmly. "Your mom asked me to watch you, not entertain you. There's food in the kitchen, water from the tap, and beds to sleep in. If you need anything else, you'll have to earn it." "Earn it?" Sophie seemed offended. "We're children. We don't have to earn anything. In this house, everyone contributes. That's how I was raised. That's how your dad was raised before your mom spoiled him. And that's how these 2 weeks are going to work." "I'm going to tell my mom you're mean," Mason threatened. "Tell her. And while you're at it, tell her I found her Facebook page very interesting, especially the photos from Los Angeles last month when she was supposedly at a training course." The children fell silent. They didn't understand what I was talking about, but they sensed their grandmother wasn't the same as before. That first night was hell. Diego kicked his bedroom door. Sophie cried for hours demanding her special food. Mason wet the bed on purpose. They wanted to break me just like their mother had tried to break me for years. But that's when I made the discovery that would change everything. At 2 a.m., I heard real sobs from Sophie's room. Not tantrums, real tears. I entered silently and found her hugging a crumpled photo. "What do you have there, sweetheart?" She startled and hid the photo under her pillow. Nothing. Go away, but I had seen enough. It was a photo of me with her when she was a baby, one of the few times I could hold her before Vanessa started her distancing campaign. Do you miss your mom? I asked, sitting on the edge of the bed. No, she answered too quickly. Too quickly. I'm so glad you're still here. Would you do me a small favor? Tap the like button and leave a blue heart below. Knowing you're still here truly makes me happy. Mom always leaves. I'm used to it. I mean, we're used to it. There was the first crack in the armor. Vanessa hadn't just abandoned me. She had abandoned her own children, using money and gifts as substitutes for love. Sophie, how often does your mom travel? I don't know. Once a month, sometimes more. She always says it's for work, but she stopped herself. But nothing. I shouldn't talk about that. Mom says family problems aren't shared. Family problems aren't shared. The golden rule of abusers: silence. I got up and walked toward the door. Before leaving, I turned around. Sophie, would you like to learn how to make those walnut cookies you used to love when you were little? Her eyes lit up for a second before dimming. Mom says your kitchen is dirty. Your mom says many things. Why don't you check for yourself tomorrow? I closed the door, leaving Sophie with her thoughts. The first seed was planted. What I didn't know then was that Dylan's phone, the one he couldn't use without Wi-Fi, had messages that would reveal Vanessa's darkest secret. Messages that would explain why she had really gone to Miami. And when I discovered them, I understood that I wasn't just saving my grandchildren. I was saving my entire family from a woman who was much more dangerous than I had ever imagined. The second day dawned differently. I already had my plan in motion. At 6 a.m., before the children woke up, Carol arrived with a shoebox. Here's everything you asked for, she whispered, handing me the package. 3 button-sized recorders, a camera that looks like a smoke detector, and this. She pulled out a manila envelope. The credit reports you requested. Grace, your daughter-in-law has debts of $300,000, all in Robert's name. My heart sank. My poor son had no idea. And your sister from Child Protective Services is coming tomorrow at 3 p.m. as a casual routine visit. But Grace, you need concrete evidence if you want to do anything legal. Evidence. That was exactly what I was going to get. When the children woke up, breakfast was on the table. Pancakes shaped like animals, fruit cut into little stars, chocolate milk. Not the horrible food their mom had told them I made. Dylan was the first to come down, still in his wrinkled pajamas. He stopped dead when he saw the table. What's this? Breakfast? Eat before it gets cold. He sat down suspiciously, took a bite, and for the first time I saw something like a smile. But he immediately composed himself. It's okay. I've had better. Sophie and Mason came down attracted by the smell. Mason immediately dove into the pancakes. These are delicious, Grandma. Shut up, dummy. Sophie elbowed him. We're not supposed to... She stopped herself. Not supposed to what, Sophie? Nothing. After breakfast, I laid out my rules. If you want Wi-Fi, television, or any privilege, you have to earn it. Dylan, your job is washing dishes. Sophie, making beds. Mason, picking up toys. That's child exploitation, Dylan shouted. No, sweetheart. Child exploitation is what I see on your mom's phone. I pulled out my phone and showed a screenshot of Vanessa's Facebook. Look, here's your mom in Miami on the beach with a man who isn't your dad. All 3 children came closer to look. In the photo, Vanessa was in a bikini, embraced by a man who definitely wasn't Robert. The hashtag read, Hosta New Life are finally free. That's Uncle Chad, Mason said innocently. Mom's friend who sometimes comes when Dad's at work. Dylan quickly covered his mouth, but it was too late. The second piece of the puzzle had just fallen into place. Uncle Chad, I asked casually. How often does Uncle Chad visit? We're not supposed to talk about that. Diego looked at me with panic. Mom said if we told about Uncle Chad, Dad would get very sad and could die of sadness. My God. The level of manipulation was worse than I thought. Children, your dad isn't going to die of sadness. Adults don't work that way, but I need you to tell me the truth about everything. It's important. Why? Sophie crossed her arms. Why do you want to know? Because I love you. And when you love someone, you protect them. And right now you need protection. It was Mason who broke first, the youngest, the most innocent, the one who wasn't completely contaminated yet. Grandma, why does Mom say you're mean if you make such good pancakes? I don't know, sweetheart. What else does your mom say about me? She says you're poor and embarrassing. That's why we can't visit you. She says your house smells bad and that you're a bitter old lady who ruined Dad's life. Each word was a stab, but I maintained my composure. I discreetly installed the first recorder under the dining room table. And what do you think? Your house smells like cinnamon and coffee, Sophie said quietly. It smells like home. That afternoon, while the children did their assigned chores, protesting but doing them, I checked Dylan's phone. He had forgotten that today's kids store everything in the cloud. With a little patience, I accessed his Google account. What I found froze my blood. WhatsApp conversations between Vanessa and this Chad. They weren't just lovers. They were planning something much worse. I almost have everything ready, Vanessa wrote. Robert signed the papers without reading, as always. The house is already in my name. And the brats? Chad responded. I'll leave them with the old lady as soon as I get the divorce. Anyway, Robert works so much he doesn't even see them. He won't be able to ask for custody. But we need more money to go to Miami permanently. The old lady has a house. It's worth at least $200,000. When she dies, Robert inherits, and as his wife, half is mine. Or was mine. We'll figure out how to keep it all. I kept reading. Vanessa had taken out 3 credit cards in Robert's name. She had sold the car that was in his name and told him it was stolen. She had even tried to take out a loan using my house as collateral, but she needed my signature. That's why the monthly trips weren't for work. They were to see Chad in different cities. They had been to Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Miami. All paid for with the money Robert killed himself working for. I took photos of everything. Every message, every photo, every piece of evidence. My friend Carol was right. I needed to document everything. That night during dinner, I decided to test the children. What would you like to do tomorrow? Go home, Dylan answered automatically. Which home? Your dad's or Uncle Chad's? Sophie's fork dropped to her plate. I don't know what you're talking about. Sophie, sweetheart, I know it's difficult, but I need you to tell me the truth. Uncle Chad lives with you, doesn't he? Well, sometimes when Dad travels for work, he stays to take care of us. In the guest room, Mason let out a nervous giggle. No, Grandma. He sleeps in Mom and Dad's room and doesn't let us in, and they make weird noises. Dylan got up from the table, furious. Shut up, Mason! Mom said not to say anything. And what else did your mom tell you not to say? That's when Sophie broke down. The tears started falling like a waterfall. That Dad is boring. That Uncle Chad is more fun. That soon we're going to have a new house with a pool. That we won't be poor like Dad anymore. That we won't end up like you, Grandma. Living in an old, ugly house. I hugged her for the first time in years. My granddaughter allowed me to hug her and she cried. She cried like the 10-year-old girl she was, not like the little robot Vanessa had tried to create. Grandma, Dylan whispered, and for the first time, there was no hostility in his voice. Does Dad know? No, sweetheart. Your dad doesn't know anything. Are you going to tell him? I'm going to do something better. I'm going to make sure you're all right, that your dad is all right, and that your mom, well, that your mom gets exactly what she deserves. That night, after tucking the children in, and for the first time none of them protested, I called Robert. Hi, Mom. How are the kids? Vanessa told me you offered to watch them. I offered. The liar had twisted everything. They're fine, son. Listen, could you come tomorrow after work? There's something about the house I need to discuss with you. It's urgent. Is it something Vanessa asked you not to bother her about during her work trip? It's about a leak in the roof. It could affect the structure. It wasn't entirely a lie. There was a leak, but not in the roof. All right, Mom. I'll be there around 7. I hung up and looked at the calendar. 12 days until Vanessa returned. 12 days to dismantle 10 years of lies, manipulation, and psychological abuse. But now I had something I didn't have before. 3 children who were starting to see the truth. And the truth, as they say, always comes to light. Tomorrow the psychologist would come. Robert would see the evidence, and Vanessa's house of cards would start to crumble. The war was just beginning, but for the first time in years, I had all the weapons to win it. The third day began with a literal explosion. Mason had found the fireworks I kept for New Year's and decided to light one inside the house. At 5 a.m., "Grandma, the house is on fire," Sophie screamed. I ran with the fire extinguisher I thankfully always keep in the kitchen. The firecracker had singed the dining room curtain and filled everything with smoke. Mason was standing in the middle of the chaos, laughing. "It's fun, like on YouTube." "Fun? You could have burned down the house, Mason." "So what? It's an ugly house anyway. Mom said when you die, she's going to sell it and buy us a better one." There was Vanessa's pure poison coming out of my 7-year-old grandson's mouth. But this time it didn't hurt me. It gave me fuel. You know what, Mason? You're right. It is an old house. Do you know why? Because in this house, I raised your dad alone after your grandfather died. In this house, I sewed uniforms until 3 a.m. to pay for his studies. In this ugly kitchen, I prepared 1,000 lunches with love so your dad never went to school on an empty stomach. The boy stopped laughing. And if your mom thinks she's going to keep this house, she's very wrong, because yesterday I changed my will. I'm leaving everything to a foundation for orphaned children. Children who would actually value having a roof over their heads. You can't do that. Dylan screamed, running downstairs. "That house is our inheritance." "Inheritance? You who never visit me, who despise me, who treat me like a servant, want inheritance. Mom says it's our right." I pulled out my phone and played the recording I had made the day before of their dinner conversation. Their own voices filled the room. "Dad is boring. Uncle Chad is more fun. We won't be poor like Dad anymore." The three of them froze. "Did you record our conversation?" Sophie was pale. "I record everything, sweetheart. Every word, every confession, because when your mom comes back and tries to turn everything against me, I'm going to have proof." That's when Dylan exploded. And it wasn't pretty. "You're a nosy old lady. That's why Dad never visits. That's why Mom hates you. You're bitter and can't stand to see anyone happy." He started throwing things. The vase my mother gave me, the picture frames from the shelf, my retirement diploma. Everything while screaming obscenities no 12-year-old should know. "I hate you. I hate you. I wish you would die." Sophie joined the chaos. She went to the kitchen and started throwing plates on the floor. "If you don't give us Wi-Fi right now, we're going to destroy your whole house." Mason, not wanting to be left out, grabbed my photo albums and started tearing the pages. Photos of my wedding, of baby Robert, of my parents who are no longer here. Pieces of my history flying through the air like macabre confetti. Stood in the middle of the hurricane, calm, watching, the hidden camera Carol had. Installed was recording everything after. 20 minutes of destruction, all three were exhausted, panting among the debris of my living room. "Are you finished?" I asked calmly. They looked at each other, confused by my lack of reaction. "Now you're going to clean up everything. Every broken piece, every destroyed photo. And while you do it, you're going to think about this. Your mom left you here because she doesn't want you. If she wanted you, she wouldn't have gone to Miami with Uncle Chad. If she wanted you, she wouldn't use you as weapons against your dad. If she wanted you, she wouldn't teach you to hate the only person who truly cares about you." "You don't care about us," Dylan shouted. "Oh no? Who do you think convinced your dad not to sell the house when he lost his job 3 years ago? Who lent him money to pay for your school tuition when Vanessa spent the money on her trips? Who has been saving money for your college since you were born?" I pulled out 3 savings books from the drawer, one for each of them. Dylan, $45,000. Sophie, $38,000. Mason, $25,000. Every month from my $4,500 pension, I save $1,000 for each of you. Since I can't see you, at least I can secure your future. But you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to the bank to cancel these accounts. That money is going to children who actually value other people's effort. Dylan grabbed his savings book with trembling hands. $45,000 for me? It was for you. Not anymore. It was Sophie who broke first. Grandma, we didn't know. You didn't know? or you didn't want to know. It's easier to believe your mom's lies than to think for yourselves, right? At that moment, the doorbell rang. It was Linda, Carol's sister, from Child Protective Services. Good morning. Mrs. Miller, I'm here about the call we received regarding possible child neglect. The children turned white. Come in, officer. As you can see, the children just had an episode. Linda observed the destruction, took out her camera, and started taking photos. The children did this? Mom says it's their way of expressing themselves, Mason muttered. Your mom encourages you to destroy other people's property? Mom says the grandma is old and what she thinks doesn't matter, Sophie responded. Linda took notes. And where is your mom now? In Miami. Working, Dylan said automatically. Working? I pulled out my phone and showed Vanessa's Facebook. New photo, her and Chad toasting on a yacht. A lot of work, as you can see. Linda reviewed the photos, the conversations I had printed, the bank statements with the debts. Her expression grew more serious. Mrs. Miller, these children are suffering severe emotional abandonment. The psychological manipulation is evident. The oldest is on the verge of depression. The girl has chronic anxiety, and the little one, well, the little one is acting out what he sees. What can I do for now? Document everything. When the father comes, I need to speak with him. And when the mother returns, well, I'm going to have to open a formal investigation. After Linda left, I found the 3 children sitting on the stairs. They no longer looked like the little tyrants who had arrived. They looked like what they really were, scared and abandoned children. Are they going to take us away from our parents? Mason asked with a trembling voice. I sat with them on the stairs. No, sweetheart. No one is going to separate you from your dad. But things are going to change, and it's going to hurt. Change always hurts, but sometimes it's necessary. Grandma, Dylan wouldn't look me in the eyes. About Uncle Chad. Dad is going to die of sadness if he finds out. No, sweetheart. Your dad is stronger than you think, and he deserves to know the truth. Everyone deserves the truth. That afternoon, while they cleaned up the mess they had made, this time without protesting, I heard Sophie whisper to Dylan, what if Grandma is right? What if Mom really doesn't love us? Shut up, Dylan responded, but his voice no longer had conviction. Mom has to love us. She's our mom, but even he was doubting now. The armor of lies was starting to crack. That night, after dinner in silence, Mason came up to me with something in his hands. It was a torn photo he had tried to tape back together. The photo of his dad on graduation day. I'm sorry, Grandma. I tried to fix it. I hugged him. For the first time since he arrived, my youngest grandson hugged me back. We can fix many things, Mason. But first we have to accept that they're broken. And in a few hours, when Robert arrived, the real reconstruction would begin, stone by stone, truth by truth, until nothing remained of Vanessa's castle of lies. Robert arrived at 7:15. He came straight from work in his engineer uniform, stained with grease and eyes sunken from exhaustion. When I saw him at the door, for a moment I saw the 8-year-old boy who cried because other kids made fun of his patched shoes. Hi, Mom. Where are the kids? Doing homework in the dining room. Robert, sit down. We need to talk. Is it about the leak? Can I check it quickly? It's not the roof leak, son. It's the leak in your marriage. He froze. What are you talking about? I put a folder on the table. Inside, the screenshots of Vanessa's conversations with Chad, the credit card statements she had taken out in his name, the Facebook photos of her work trip to Miami. Robert took the papers with trembling hands. With each page he turned, his face lost more color. This has to be a mistake. Vanessa is at a sales conference. Robert, sweetheart. Vanessa is in Miami with her lover. The children know it. They've known for months. The children, his voice broke. Uncle Chad who comes to take care of them when you travel. The one who sleeps in your bed. The one your children have had to endure in silence because their mother threatened them that you would die of sadness if you found out. I saw the exact moment my son broke. He didn't cry, didn't scream, just sank into the chair as if someone had cut the strings that held him up. I'm an idiot, he whispered. A complete idiot. No, son. You're a man who trusted the wrong person. But now you have to be strong for your children. Dad? Dylan was at the door. He had heard everything. Robert looked up, and for the first time in years, really looked at his son. Not at the spoiled child Vanessa had created, but at the scared teenager who desperately needed his father. Dylan, son. We already knew. Dad! We've known for a long time. Sophie and Mason appeared behind their brother. All three stood at the door as if they were afraid to approach. Come here. Robert opened his arms, and for the first time in I don't know how long, I saw my grandchildren run to hug their father. The four of them cried together while I made coffee with cinnamon. Sometimes tears are the first step to healing. That night, after Robert took the children to sleep early, I was left alone planning the next phase. Vanessa had underestimated the retired teacher, but now the teacher was going to give her a lesson she would never forget. The following days were intense. Robert took vacation time, the first in 3 years, and practically moved into my house with the children. Together we implemented what I called Project Respect. First, schedules. Wake up at 7, breakfast at 8, educational activities, lunch, free time earned with good behavior, dinner, and bed at 9. But at home, we go to sleep whenever we want, Sophie protested the first day. That's why you are the way you are, I responded. The brain needs routine to feel secure. Second, responsibilities. Each child had age-appropriate chores. Dylan helped with the garden, Sophie in the kitchen, Mason organized the games. This is exploitation, Dylan muttered while pruning the plants. No, this is family, Robert corrected him. In a family, everyone contributes. Third, real consequences. If they didn't comply, no Wi-Fi. If they screamed, time out. If they broke something, they repaired it or paid for it with their allowance. But most importantly, family sessions with the psychologist Carol had recommended. Dr. Patricia Walker came to the house 3 times a week. These children have been used as pawns in a sick game, she told me after the 3rd session. The mother has conditioned them to reject any authority that isn't hers, but paradoxically, she herself is absent. It's a classic case of parental alienation combined with emotional neglect. It can be reversed with time, patience, and a lot of love. But yes, it can be done. And little by little, it started working. On the 5th day, Sophie asked me to teach her how to make walnut cookies. While we kneaded, she started talking. Grandma, why does Mom hate you so much? She doesn't hate me, sweetheart. She fears me. Fears you? Why? Because I represent everything she isn't. I worked my whole life, built something with my hands, raised a son with values. She wants everything easy, fast, without effort. And when someone like me exists, it reminds her that she chose the wrong path. Is Mom a bad person? I thought carefully about my answer. Your mom is lost, sweetheart. She made wrong decisions, and now she's so buried in her lies that she doesn't know how to get out. But that doesn't justify the damage she's done to you. On the 7th day, Dylan approached while I was mending Mason's uniform. Grandma, can I ask you something? Of course, sweetheart. Why didn't you ever defend yourself? All these years, when Mom spoke badly about you, why didn't you ever say anything? Because I thought keeping the peace was more important than being right. It was a mistake. Sometimes silence isn't peace. It's complicity with abuse. Do you regret it? I regret not acting sooner, but I don't regret acting now. The 8th day, something extraordinary happened. Mason, my youngest grandson, the most damaged by the neglect, brought me a drawing. It was our family. Robert, the 3 children, and me in the center. Vanessa didn't appear. Where's your mom? I asked gently. Mom is traveling, he responded. She's always traveling, but you're always here. That night, Robert and I had a conversation we should have had years ago. Mom, I'm so sorry. I failed you as a son. No, Robert. I failed you as a mother. I should have taught you to recognize the signs. I should have protected you better. How didn't I see what was happening? Because love blinds us, son, and because manipulators are experts at making us doubt our own perception. What am I going to do when she comes back? That's what we're preparing for. I have a plan, and boy, did I have a plan. With Carol's help, I had contacted a lawyer specializing in divorces with parental alienation. With Linda from Child Protective Services, we had a complete file. With Dr. Patricia, we had psychological evaluations of the children. On the 9th day, the children did something that left me speechless. They organized a dinner for their dad and me. They cooked with supervision, set the table, even made a centerpiece with flowers from the garden. It's to say thank you, Dylan explained, no longer showing any trace of the hostile child who had arrived. Thank you for not giving up on us. During dinner, Robert pulled out his phone. Vanessa sent me a message. She says she's arriving in 5 days and expects the children to be ready. Ready for what? Sophie asked. Robert looked at me. It was time to tell them. Children, when your mom comes back, things are going to change a lot. Dad is going to ask for a divorce. I expected crying, protests, drama. Instead, Mason asked, will we be able to keep visiting Grandma? You're going to live with me, Robert said. And you'll see your grandma every day if you want. And Mom? Dylan tried to sound indifferent, but I saw the pain in his eyes. Your mom will have to make decisions. But whatever happens, you're going to be okay. I promise. That night while I was tucking in Mason, he said, Grandma, you know what? I don't miss the iPad anymore. It was a small miracle. But big changes always start with small miracles. 5 days remained until Vanessa's return. 5 days to finish preparing everything. Because when she walked through that door, she wouldn't find the broken children she had left, nor the submissive mother-in-law she expected to manipulate. She would find a united family, strong and ready for battle. And I, the old retired teacher who, according to her, did nothing, was about to give her the most important lesson of her life. Never underestimate the power of true love over manipulation. The 10th day began with a revelation that changed everything. Sophie came to my room at 6 a.m. with red eyes from not sleeping. Grandma, I need to tell you something. Something I haven't even told Dad. I sat on the bed and hugged her. What's wrong, sweetheart? Mom has another phone, one Dad doesn't know about. She hides it in her makeup bag. One day I saw it by accident and it fell out. My heart stopped. And what did you see? Photos. Lots of photos of her with Uncle Chad. But there were also documents, bank papers from Miami, and something about a house she bought there. Another house in Miami. Yes, and there was more. An email from a lawyer about custody. Mom wants to take us to live in Miami with Uncle Chad. It said something about Mexico not having an extradition treaty for civil cases or something like that. My God. Vanessa wasn't just planning to abandon Robert. She was planning to steal the children and disappear. Is there anything else I should know? Sophie hesitated. Then she pulled something from her pajamas. It was a USB drive. I copied everything. I don't know why I did it. Maybe because deep down I knew someone would need to see it someday. I hugged her tight. My 10-year-old granddaughter had had to carry this secret alone, being braver than many adults. I connected the USB to my old computer. What we found was devastating. Not only was there evidence of the Miami house, bought in Chad's name with money Vanessa had been withdrawing from joint accounts for 2 years. There was also a detailed plan. Phase 1. Convince R that I need a training trip to Miami. Phase 2. During my absence, Chad will empty the house of everything valuable. Phase 3. Upon returning, I'll provoke a fight with the old lady. I'll make it seem like she mistreated the children. Phase 4. I'll use that to justify leaving with the children for their safety. Phase 5. Once in Miami, there's no return. But the worst was in an audio file. It was Vanessa talking to someone on the phone. I don't care if the brats cry for their dad. In 2 months they'll forget. Besides, Robert is so pathetic he won't even fight. And if he does, I have edited videos where it looks like he hits Dylan. Technology works miracles, girlfriend. Sophie was crying. Mom was going to say Dad hit us? Your mom was willing to do anything to get her way. But Dad has never touched us. Never. I know, sweetheart. That's why I recorded everything from the moment you arrived, to protect you and your dad. At that moment, Dylan entered. "What are you talking about?" Sophie told him everything. I watched the fury grow in my oldest grandson's eyes. "I'm going to kill her. No, Dylan, you're not going to do anything violent." "That's exactly what she wants, for you to react badly so she can use it against you. We're going to be smarter than her." "How?" "With the truth. And with the law on our side." I immediately called the lawyer I had contacted. When I explained the situation, he told me to come immediately with Robert. While we waited for Robert, who had gone to run some errands, Mason joined us in the living room. "Why is everyone sad?" "We're not sad, sweetheart," I told him. "We're preparing." "For what?" "To protect our family." Mason stayed thoughtful. Then he said something that broke my heart. "Grandma, I know Mom doesn't love me. Once I heard her tell Uncle Chad that I was a mistake, that if it weren't for me, she would already be free. 7 years old. My 7-year-old grandson had heard his own mother call him a mistake. Mason, look at me. You are not a mistake. You are a gift. And if your mom can't see that, it's her loss, not yours." "Then why did she have me?" Dylan answered before I could. "To trap Dad. Mom got pregnant with you right when Dad had asked for divorce the first time." "Dad had already wanted to divorce before?" Sophie was surprised. 3 years ago. I heard them fighting. Dad had discovered that Mom had spent Grandpa Michael's insurance money on a trip with her friends. But then Mom told him she was pregnant with Mason, and Dad stayed. I started connecting the dots. Michael's life insurance. I never knew how much it was, but Robert had told me he would save it for the children's education. Now I understood where it had gone. Robert arrived with a distraught face. "Mom, I went to the bank. Vanessa emptied our savings account yesterday. $380,000. Everything we had saved in 10 years. Sit down, son. There's more you need to know." I showed him everything. The documents, the audios, the plan. With each piece of evidence, Robert seemed to age years. How could I have been so blind? "Dad," Dylan sat next to him, "it's not your fault. Mom is very good at lying. She fooled all of us, but I'm their father. I should have protected them." "You're protecting us now," Sophie said. "That's what matters." The lawyer arrived at noon. Attorney Mark Stevens, a man about 60 years old with a bulldog face but kind eyes. "With all this evidence, we can not only prevent her from taking the children, but also request a restraining order. Attempted flight with minors is a serious crime, plus the financial fraud. We're talking about jail time." "I don't want her to go to jail," Robert said. "I just want my children safe." "Dad, she was going to accuse you of hitting us," Dylan reminded him. "She was going to destroy you. Still, I don't want their children to see their mother in prison." Stevens nodded. "I understand. We can negotiate. She gives up custody, returns the money, and there are no criminal charges. But we need to act fast. If she suspects anything..." "She arrives in 4 days," I said. "Perfect. Enough time to prepare everything." After the lawyer left, we all sat in the living room. My small living room that had seen so much history. "Children," Robert began, "I want you to know that whatever happens with your mom, I'm always going to be here. And your grandma, too." "Is Mom going to go to jail?" Mason asked. "We don't know, but she's going to have to face the consequences of her actions." "Are we going to see her again?" Sophie tried to sound indifferent, but she was their mother after all. "That will depend on her and what the judge decides is best for you." That night, while we had dinner, pot roast that I had made with Sophie's help, Dylan said something that filled me with pride. "Grandma, thank you for not giving up. For fighting for us when we didn't even fight for ourselves. I will always fight for you. Always." "You know what?" Sophie added. "These have been the best days of my life. For the first time, I feel like family." "Me too," Mason said with his mouth full of pot roast. "And Grandma's food isn't horrible. It's the best in the world." We laughed for the first time in years. We laughed like a family, but while the children watched a movie in the living room, Robert and I had a more serious conversation in the kitchen. "Mom, I'm scared. What if Vanessa gets violent? What if she tries to take the children by force?" "That's why we have the plan. The day she arrives, the children will be at Carol's house. The police will be alerted. The lawyer will be present. She won't be alone with them for a minute. And if the children miss her afterward? What if they hate me for separating them from their mother? The children will miss the mother they never had, not the one they have. And with therapy and love, they'll heal. We'll all heal. I looked at my grandchildren in the living room, curled up on the couch watching the movie. In 10 days they had changed so much. They were no longer the little tyrants who had arrived. They were children. Just children who needed love and boundaries. 3 days remained until Vanessa's return. 3 days to finish legally protecting these children. Because what Vanessa didn't know was that while she was enjoying herself in Miami, an army had risen here. An army of love, truth, and justice, and we were ready for war. The last 3 days before Vanessa's return were the most intense and beautiful of my life. It was as if the universe had given us this time to build the foundations that should have existed from the beginning. Day 11 dawned rainy. While I prepared breakfast, I found Dylan in the living room looking at a photo album I had rescued from the destruction of the first day. "That's Dad," he pointed to a photo where Robert was his age. "He just won the state math competition. Look at his proud face." "He looks like me." "No, sweetheart, you look like him. And not just physically. You have his intelligence, his nobility. You had just buried it under the pain." Dylan turned the page. There I was, 35 years old with my first group of students. "You looked happy, Grandma." I was happy. Teaching was my passion. Like cooking, like loving you. "Why did you let Mom push you away from us?" I sat next to him. "Out of cowardice. I thought if I didn't make waves, someday she would change. But abusers don't change with submission. They get stronger." "Grandma, do you think I'm like Mom? Sometimes I feel so much rage inside." "Rage doesn't make you bad, Dylan. What you do with it is what defines who you are. Your mom uses her rage to hurt. You can use yours to protect, to build, to change what's wrong." That morning we did something special. I taught them how to cook my mother's mole. 32 ingredients, 4 hours of preparation. A ritual I had waited years to share with them. "Why is it so complicated?" Sophie asked while we ground the chilies. "The best things in life require time, patience, and love. There are no shortcuts to what's really worthwhile." Mason was in charge of toasting the spices. His little face of concentration was pure poetry. "It smells like Christmas," he said. "It smells like tradition," I corrected. "Like history. This mole was made by my great-grandmother, your great-great-grandmother. She survived the Depression, 2 world wars, and now it lives in us. We are history." Mason seemed amazed by the idea. "We are living history, sweetheart. Each of us carries the stories of those who came before." While we cooked, Robert worked at the dining room table with the lawyer, signing documents, preparing the legal strategy. From time to time, he looked at us with a sad smile. "Dad looks different," Sophie observed. "Your dad is waking up from a very long dream," I explained. "It hurts to wake up, but it's necessary." That afternoon, Dr. Patricia came for a special family session. "I want each of you to write a letter to Vanessa, not to send it, but to get out what you're carrying inside." Dylan wrote 3 pages of fury. Sophie, a page of questions. Mason drew his mom as a monster with suitcases instead of hands. Robert wrote only 1 line. "I forgive you, but I won't allow more harm." I wrote, "I failed as a mother-in-law by not stopping you before. I won't fail as a grandmother." "Now," the doctor said, "I want you to burn them. Let go of the pain." In the backyard, under the light rain, we burned the letters in a clay pot. As the paper turned to ash, Mason asked, "Are we free now?" "Now we begin to be free," the doctor replied. Day 12 was practical preparation. Carol came with her sister Linda from Child Protective Services. The day Vanessa arrives, the children will be at my house, Carol explained. It's better they don't witness the initial confrontation. But I want to see Mom's face when she realizes we know everything, Dylan protested. No, sweetheart, I intervened. Revenge isn't our goal. Protection is. Linda reviewed all the documents. With this, we can request emergency custody for Robert. Vanessa won't be able to get near the children without judicial supervision. And if she comes with this Chad guy? Robert asked. We'll have a patrol nearby. Any sign of violence and they intervene. That night, while the children slept, I found Robert in the garden looking at the stars. What are you thinking about, son? About Dad. Do you think he'd be disappointed in me? Your father would be proud that you're finally doing the right thing. You were late, but you arrived. That's what counts. Mom, how did you find the strength to raise a child alone? I didn't find it. I built it day by day, decision by decision, like you're building it now. Day 13, the last day before Vanessa's return, we decided to do something special, a real family day. We went to the park where I used to take Robert when he was little. The children ran, played, got dirty. For the first time in years, I saw them simply be children. Grandma, look. Mason had climbed the highest tree. I can see the whole city. Be careful, I shouted, but Robert stopped me. Let him, Mom. He needs to feel brave. Sophie and I sat on a bench eating corn with chili. Grandma, when Mom comes back, will all this end? No, sweetheart. This is just beginning. What's going to end is the fear, the manipulation, the lies. And if Mom cries, whenever she cries, Dad forgives her everything. This time, no. This time your dad has something stronger than your mom's manipulation. What? Dylan approached us with cotton candy for everyone. I spent my allowance, but it was worth it. That's my grandson, learning that giving is worth more than receiving. At sunset, we returned home. The children were exhausted but happy. While I prepared dinner, I heard them talking in the living room. Do you remember when Mom used to bring us here? Mason asked. Mom never brought us here, Dylan replied. Mom never took us anywhere that wasn't the mall. But Grandma did, Sophie said. In just 13 days, Grandma has given us more than Mom has in years. My heart swelled with love and sadness at the same time. During dinner, Robert made an announcement. Tomorrow is going to be a difficult day. But I want you to know that no matter what happens, we are family. And real families protect each other. Isn't Mom family? Mason asked, confused. Mom is your biological mother, but family. Family is who's here when things get tough. Family is who loves you without conditions. Then Grandma is more family than Mom, Mason concluded with the simple logic of children. That night, while I tucked them in, each one said something I'll keep in my heart forever. Dylan, Grandma, thank you for not giving up on me, even though I was horrible to you. Sophie, Grandma, I want to be like you when I grow up, strong and brave. Mason, Grandma, can I call you Mama Grace? I already have a mom, but I need a real mom. I couldn't contain my tears. You can call me whatever you want, my loves. I'll always be your grandma who loves you. Robert and I stayed in the kitchen until late, going over the plan for the next day. At 10 a.m., I take the children to Carol's house. At 11, the lawyer comes. At 11:30, the patrol will be on the corner. Vanessa said she arrives at noon and will be ready. Before sleeping, I looked at the photos of these 13 days that I had taken with my old phone. The transformation was impressive. From 3 broken and hostile children to 3 children healing, laughing, being family. Tomorrow, Vanessa would return expecting to find her submissive mother-in-law and her emotionally abandoned children. Instead, she would find the consequences of her actions. She would find that true love is always stronger than manipulation. She would find that the family she had despised had become an unbreakable wall protecting the children she had used as weapons. And I, the old retired teacher, was ready to give the last lesson, the most important, the definitive one. It was 11:58 a.m. Robert and I were sitting in the living room with Attorney Stevens at our side. The documents were on the coffee table like soldiers ready for battle. My phone showed a message from Carol. "The children are fine, playing in the garden. They don't suspect anything." At 12:03, we heard Vanessa's SUV engine. The war was about to begin. But for the first time in years, we had all the weapons to win it. And when it was over, we would finally be free. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this story, the ones on your screen are just for you. If this story brought a word, a thought, or a feeling to your mind, share it in the comments. Let's see whose words will touch the most hearts. Thank you for listening.